Lyra adjusted the strap on her data satchel and tucked her curls beneath a weather hood as she stepped past the rusted warning sign. The sign's faded red letters screamed, "Restricted Zone, Xenobiological Hazard." But the only thing Lyra felt was curiosity, sharp and insistent. Her boots crunched the dried leaf moss beneath her feet, muffled by the dense canopy overhead. This place was off-limits for a reason, but no one ever explained why in the archives. That silence told her everything she needed to know. Lyra wasn't the kind of human who picked fights or chased danger. She preferred labs, libraries, and simulation models. But when the colony scanners picked up unexplained energy spikes in Sector 9, an area avoided even by automated drones, her attention sharpened. Then came the whispers. Miners claimed they heard thunder without clouds, trees breathing, something massive moving at the forest's edge. Others said an ancient predator was buried beneath the colony's roots, half dead and dreaming. But Lyra didn't believe in fairy tales. She believed in patterns, behavior loops, and residual heat trails. The data didn't lie. Something large was alive in that forest, and its movements were slowing, growing erratic. Wounded, maybe? Dying. As she reached the crest of a ridge, her portable scanner pinged a soft blue pulse. Electromagnetic signature, non-human, layered in scale-structured frequency modulation. She paused and inhaled slowly. It was real. The terrain dipped sharply into a ravine, and there, nestled against the half-collapsed rock shelf, was the creature. Even from this distance, it dwarfed any known terrestrial life. Obsidian-black scales rippled with an iridescent shimmer, fractured by deep, jagged ridges. Its breathing was labored. One massive forelimb trembled beneath its weight, and when it shifted slightly, a low rumble echoed through the earth. Her scanner blinked erratically. The tech wasn't made to process something this ancient. Lyra's throat tightened. This wasn't just a dragon. It was a HFY Valen. She had read about them, mostly myths dressed up as anthropology papers. They were the apex beings from the edge of known history. According to alien records, they disappeared after something called the Tearing Accord, when an alliance of species rose against them in fear. Their biology had never been fully documented. No living one had ever been verified by a human. Until now. She forced herself to take a step forward. The dragon's head lifted sharply. Two emerald eyes narrowed, focusing on her with terrifying precision. It did not roar or strike. It just watched. Lyra stopped walking. Her voice caught, but she made it steady. "I don't want to hurt you," she said, holding up both hands slowly. "You're injured. I can see it." The dragon didn't respond, but its eyes flicked downward briefly. Lyra followed its gaze. A long metallic shard, like a spike or a broken blade, jutted from the soft pad of its left forepaw. Deep enough to cause internal damage, possibly infected. Probably the source of the erratic energy patterns. She knelt slowly, withdrawing a med pouch and a scanner from her bag. "I know this probably means nothing to you, but I studied xenobiology. I've patched up scaled bears on Io and treated venom grazes from kelpite worms. I've never seen anything like you, but I want to help. Let me try." The dragon's eyes narrowed again, unreadable. Then it moved deliberately, shifting its wounded paw forward. A sharp exhale of air burst from its nostrils. She didn't know if it was warning or consent. But she didn't move backward. With slow, calculated motions she approached. Every step felt like a choice between survival and foolishness. But the closer she got, the more she saw. Its scales weren't just armor, they were patterned with ancient markings, pulsing faintly, like memory encoded in biology. The smell was ozone, blood, and scorched soil. She crouched by the paw and examined the metal. It had barbs, designed to tear when pulled. Not accidental. Someone had set this trap. "I'm going to remove it," she whispered. "It'll hurt." The dragon made no sound. Lyra took a breath and slid her extraction tool beneath the embedded shard. She activated the micro-vibration pulse and felt it hum against her fingers. Carefully, she tilted the blade. A low vibration traveled through the ground, the creature tensing. Then, with a snap, the shard came loose. The dragon roared. The forest trembled. Leaves flew from branches. The sound tore through the valley like thunder. But Lyra didn't flinch. She stayed crouched, shielding the wound, pressing a nanoweave patch against the bleeding. Moments passed. The roar faded. Then something impossible happened. The dragon lowered its massive head until it was level with hers. No movement. No aggression. Just breath. Hot, steady, close. Lyra met its eyes. "It's done," she whispered. The dragon blinked once. Not a threat. Recognition. The dragon's breathing steadied, each exhale a controlled rush of heat. Lyra stepped back slightly, not out of fear, but to give it space. The metallic shard in her gloved hand still pulsed faintly, coated with a viscous fluid that shimmered in shades her scanner couldn't categorize. She pocketed it quickly. Whatever it wasn't from standard weaponry. This was engineered, precise, and left to fester. The dragon's paw, though wounded, had already begun to knit tissue around the nanobandage. Its biology was advanced, self-regenerating, adaptive, but the damage had been holding it in place for days, maybe longer. She understood now why it hadn't moved from that spot. It hadn't been resting. It had been trapped. The dragon tilted its head slightly, studying her. She felt a sudden pressure at the base of her skull, not pain, but a shift, like the air thinning around her thoughts. Then a voice. Not spoken, not translated, projected directly into her mind. It was ancient, layered in tones, deep with weight. "You removed the thorn not meant to be seen." Lyra froze. This wasn't telepathy like humans imagined. It wasn't a voice. It was experience. Intent. And something more, a test. She responded mentally, pushing the thought forward. "I saw pain. I acted. ****. A pause. The pressure receded slightly. The dragon's consciousness expanded, its presence vast, stretching far beyond its physical form. Then, images came. A battlefield of stars. 1,000 ships in ruin. The same species who had documented the HFY or Valen extinction had fired the first shot. She watched, powerless, as younger civilizations with fragile egos and powerful weapons brought the dragons to the brink of extinction. Betrayals masked as treaties. Exiles sealed by silence. Lyra stood in the middle of it all, memories overlaid in perfect clarity, watching Valkarith, once sovereign of the deep sky, chained beneath a mountain forged from synthetic stardust. The nail in his paw hadn't been meant to kill. It was meant to disable, drain, suppress. Then the memory twisted. A mirror of her own people flashed by, explorers, colonizers, scientists. The dragon had seen humanity from afar. Young, chaotic, unpredictable. But unlike others, humans didn't follow patterns. They broke them. Not always with force, but with stubbornness. And sometimes, with kindness no logic could explain. The vision snapped back. She stood, breath catching in her throat, the mental link fading but not vanishing. The dragon's mind was still there, quiet now, but watching. She pulled a second patch from her kit, this one designed for deeper tissues. Without asking, she stepped forward and applied it gently. The dragon didn't move. It trusted her. That fact alone seemed more impossible than everything else combined. "You're recovering faster than I expected," she said quietly. The dragon shifted slightly. A flicker of warmth brushed her mind again. Pain is temporary. Betrayal is not. ***. She nodded, understanding more than she wanted to. This creature had been abandoned by time, buried under stories twisted by fear and politics. And now it was awake again, because of her. The bandage sealed into place. Lyra stepped back, and the dragon's wounded limbs sank into the moss with a heavy sigh of earth. It was still weak, but no longer helpless. She examined the shard again. It was made from an alloy not found on any human registry. Embedded within the core was a thin trace of tracking nanites, still active, still transmitting. Her blood chilled. "You were being monitored." The dragon didn't respond, but she knew he already understood. Whoever had placed that shard didn't just want him contained. They wanted to know the moment he moved. Lyra disabled the signal, crushing the nanites between two polarized magnetic plates. It sparked briefly, then fell still. "You'll need to leave this place soon." Another pulse of thought met hers. "Not alone. You carry part of this now. ***. She didn't respond. Because he was right. Her act hadn't been a casual gesture of kindness. She had entered the forbidden zone, approached a myth, healed a legend, and now she was tethered to a history that had never been meant to wake. But even as fear clawed at the edge of her mind, something else took hold. A sense of purpose. The galaxy had spent centuries fearing the HFY Valen for their power. But it hadn't seen them in pain, in silence, or betrayed. Humanity had. She had. And she had chosen to help. She met the dragon's eyes once more. No words passed between them, no thoughts. Only acknowledgement. Something had shifted. A line crossed. Not between species. Between strangers and allies. The air thickened as Lyra felt another wave of pressure behind her eyes. This time, the link was deliberate. No invitation, no hesitation. The dragon opened its mind fully, and she was pulled into it without movement or sound. The first sensation was weightless. Then light, fractured, blinding, pouring in from a billion stars. She stood in memories layered over time. Valcaritha's mind, vast and ancient, unfolded like a star chart across her consciousness. The visions weren't chronological. They came in fragments, scenes built from emotion and instinct more than language. She saw the birth of his kind, dragons not born, but ignited, seeded across nebulae to regulate energy flows in star systems before civilizations had evolved language. They were not conquerors. They were custodians, created for balance, feared for scale. Then came the betrayals. Species once uplifted by the HFY Valen turned on them. The cause wasn't hatred, it was fear. As those species developed weapons, they stopped seeking balance. They sought control. And Valcarith had led a resistance that refused to become myth. Lyra saw his wings torn by ion lances, his allies scattered, memories sealed in crystalline matrices. His final battle hadn't ended in death. It ended in exile. Not by force, but with precision tools, the kind designed not to kill, but to incapacitate permanently. He was locked beneath layers of surveillance cloaked as wilderness. The final memory sharpened, an arm reaching for his paw, a soft voice speaking gently, the sting of a foreign tool removing the pain. Her. That moment echoed in his mind with surprising clarity, repeating like a tectonic shift. Then it ended. Lyra stumbled backward mentally as the connection severed. The weight lifted. But something remained, an afterimage burned into her thoughts. She had been changed. Not biologically, but perceptually. She'd seen the galaxy from an eye that had watched stars die and civilizations forget. Valcaritha's voice returned, quieter, more direct. Your kind carries chaos, but not all chaos is destruction. Sometimes it breaks cycles. You broke mine, ***. Lyra looked down at the metallic shard in her hand. The nanite traces were older than she'd estimated. Not recent. Someone had planted it decades ago. That meant this trap wasn't reactive. It had been set in advance, possibly the moment Valcarith crashed or was forced into hiding. She activated a spectral analysis on the shard's core. An energy signature spiked, residual, dormant, but precise. It pulsed once. A trace signal. Her stomach dropped. It hadn't been sending. It had been waiting. Something else knew he'd been disturbed. And now it would move. She checked her satellite uplink. Low-orbit scans showed minor distortions over the forest's northern ridge, too symmetrical to be natural, too dispersed to be colony systems. Either cloaked surveillance or automated recon units. No response from command. They're already here, she muttered. Valcarith turned his gaze toward the horizon. The mental pulse that followed was not fear. It was calculation. They fear what waking me represents. You remove the seal. That makes you a variable. They will not tolerate variables. Asterisk asterisk. Lyra ran scenarios. Standard colonial defense units wouldn't come this far out, not for rumors. But Black Ops divisions, private security under alien contracts. Those did. And she had no authority, no backup. She crouched and activated a jamming field. It wouldn't last long, but it would delay signal triangulation. She knew what had to come next, even before she said it. We have to move. Valkareth shifted his body slightly, testing strength. The paw held. Not fully healed, but mobile. Then his next words pressed into her mind with clarity and finality. You are not prey. You are now entangled in a war no one believes still burns. I will not abandon you. Asterisk asterisk. Lyra didn't flinch. What they fear, she said, might be exactly what we need. The dragon blinked once. Not confusion. Agreement. The jamming field began to degrade within minutes, its pulses faltering as unknown countermeasures worked against it. Lyra's hands flew across her tablet, rerouting the shielding through older frequencies. But it only bought seconds. The enemy had prepared for scenarios like this. Not for him waking, but for anyone interfering. Valkareth was already on his feet, larger than any transport unit she'd seen in her life. His wings remained folded, likely conserving energy, but his steps were precise. The wound still hindered him, but it no longer controlled him. That subtle difference gave Lyra the edge she needed. We follow the ridge line east, she said, synchronizing her field map with the movement data. Natural magnetic distortion. Harder to track us. If they're using orbital probes, that'll confuse the geometry long enough to. The dragon's mind touched hers. I know the way. I shaped this terrain before your kind ever named it. Asterisk asterisk. No doubt. But knowledge alone didn't stop drones from descending. 2 minutes later they were spotted. The first unit dropped without sound, stealth-cased, high-altitude delivery. Lyra saw the ripple before the body. The shimmer of a refracted shield, faint enough to miss without optical enhancement. A drone mimic. Humanoid in shape, non-biological, but loaded with antimaterial payloads. Not a scouting unit. A silencer. Valkareth moved first. The dragon launched from stillness, closing the distance before the machine could lock its primary weapon. One sweep of his claw cracked the drone in half, splintering its armor into glinting shards. A secondary detonation fried the local comms. No data got out. They kept moving. More signals followed, staggered drops, triangulated paths. Someone had sent an autonomous kill sequence, not knowing the threat they targeted had evolved. Lyra hacked one of the fallen drones mid-run, plugging into its memory buffer. Inside was a command log: neutralize bioform anomaly, extract text signature, eliminate civilian interference. Her name was in the metadata. They knew who she was. She shut the core down and destroyed the drive. No more subtlety. Whoever had planted the shard wanted absolute silence now. No containment. No retrieval. Just removal. Valkaretha's thoughts brushed hers again, calmer this time. They fear awakening because their control depends on amnesia. You are not what they expected. Asterisk asterisk. Lyra felt her pulse tighten. She wasn't. She wasn't military, elite, or trained for combat. But they'd underestimated something crucial. Humans adapt under pressure. Not by protocol, but instinct. She wasn't just running. She was learning. Her next move came without hesitation. She rerouted her wrist scanner into a frequency disruptor, pulsing in harmonic cycles that destabilized cloaking fields. Drones began appearing as brief flashes ahead, ghosts in fog. She passed coordinates to Valkareth mentally. The dragon never asked for explanation. He acted. One by one, the units fell. Not in combat. In calculated erasure. Lyra didn't watch the violence. She tracked the energy trail behind each shutdown, predicting the deployment pattern. Whoever programmed the attack was using centralized AI logic, optimized but rigid. It followed paths. Lyra broke those. They reached the ridge just as the final wave approached. No longer drones, now manned interceptors, lower orbit, marked with non-state emblems. Contractors, not soldiers. That meant plausible deniability. A deep game. Someone powerful wanted Valkareth erased, but not on the record. Lyra locked into one interceptor's comm array. For a moment, the pilot's audio came through, calm, clipped, almost bored. Target acquired. No heat signature from secondary. Engage with discretion. Priority is asset silence. She ended the signal. Valkareth turned his head slightly, sensing her focus. You could leave now. Disappear. Let them erase this. Asterisk asterisk. Lyra shook her head. They came to silence a story. That only works when no one's willing to speak. The dragon's response came with no weight. No push. Just presence. Then we burned through their silence. Together. Lyra finished hardwiring the data spike into her field node as the ridge trembled under Valkareth's steps. She didn't need his protection, what she needed was time. The uplink would only remain open for 47 seconds before orbital jammers locked it down. Her only shot at transmitting proof of what happened here depended on precise timing, no retries, no noise. She loaded the drone memory logs, the captured command sequences, the alloy scan of the shard, and, most important, biometric telemetry tied to Valkareth's healing. Not just the dragon's resurgence, but undeniable evidence of technological sabotage, deliberate targeting, and weaponized exile. The packet built fast, dense with flagged data designed to force review at the upper levels. She encrypted the contents twice, named the file something deliberately mundane, and launched it straight through the civilian relay buried in the WeatherSat link. Transmission complete. Lockout followed 5 seconds later. She exhaled once. Then turned to face the sound of closing wings. The interceptors had adjusted. Now flying in coordinated arcs, they swept low, using atmospheric disturbance to conceal their approach. Heat signatures masked. Munitions armed. Each one bristled with enough firepower to down a deep space freighter, and their trajectory wasn't aimed at warning shots. Valkareth stepped between her and the open sky, wings still held back, but his posture had changed. No longer cautious. Now resolute. His presence no longer just broadcast awareness. It radiated decision. You've fulfilled your part. What comes next is not yours to bear. Asterisk asterisk. Lyra met his gaze. You don't get to die just because your story's inconvenient. He didn't argue. But his thoughts shifted. She sensed something beneath the surface. A pattern. Not of escape, but of purpose. The interceptors descended. She activated the portable disruptor again. It screamed with strain, firing off directional pulses aimed at their sensor arrays. 2 units faltered mid-dive, veering off. The others recalibrated faster than she expected. These weren't machines built for suppression. They were execution tools. Before she could recalculate, Valkareth moved. With no warning, he unfolded his wings and surged into the air, ignoring the pain still buried in his joints. His acceleration was immediate, breathtaking, and absolute. He collided with the lead interceptor mid-flight, tearing through its chassis like it was cloth. Shrapnel rained in all directions. The others broke formation in response, attempting evasive spirals. He pursued with precision. Lyra watched from the ridge, eyes locked on every turn. Each movement was both an act of violence and memory, his body remembering war, his instincts correcting for time lost. One by one, the ships fell. Not with showy explosions. With finality. The last unit tried to flee. Valkareth led it. Lyra caught his reason instantly. They needed one to survive. Someone to carry the message back, not that he lived, but that he fought again. That the age of silent dragons was over. He returned minutes later, scorched, smoking in parts, but upright. His breathing shallow, but steady. Blood from reopened wounds dotted his flank, but his mind burned clear. She approached. He lowered his head slightly, not as a bow, but as a signal. You changed the outcome by acting without expectation. They built a galaxy on calculated outcomes. You showed them something outside their model. That is how stories endure. ***. Lyra reached up, placing one hand gently on the edge of his scaled forelimb. They'll come again. Yes. But not expecting both of us. ***. She nodded. It was enough. Her signal had reached open channels. Someone, somewhere, would see what had been buried. The rest would come later. War, inquiry, resistance, change. For now, what mattered was this. The myth had risen, not in fury, but because a human girl saw pain and chose to act. No orders. No mission. Just defiance in the form of empathy. In that moment, Lyra understood. This wasn't a rescue. It was a reawakening. Not just for him. For everyone.